Good morning and welcome back to our Countdown Till Christmas, where we are making simple gift ideas for the holidays, not necessarily holiday specific, and today's project is certainly one that will see more use in the summer months. We are going to make a squirrel cooker. Now don't worry, you don't have to cook a squirrel on it. It is perfectly suited for cooking a single piece of chicken, a small steak, a hot dog, something like that. It's merely a way to cook food over the campfire without having to hold a fork in your hand the whole time you're cooking it. For this project, I want to start with a piece of 5/16 square bar. That looks like it's about 4 millimeters square. I like this a little bit better than 1/4 inch for this project because it's just a little bit more substantial. And I'm starting with a piece 3 feet long, but I'm going to end up cutting this in half. So this is just a starting point. It's a 2-piece project. There's a stand that goes in the ground and then a fork that goes on the stand, so you put your food on the fork. The stand then holds the fork next to the fire. You come by every now and then and rotate it, change position so that your food cooks evenly and you don't have to stand there and burn your knuckles holding the fork the whole time. Since the fork is the main part of this project, we're going to start by doing the fork into this, and I'll do that while it's attached so I've got something I can hold on to. This starts with the ubiquitous taper. Just draw out square, and then I'm going to flatten it a little bit because I need to split this into 2 fork tines. You have to decide how big a fork you want on this. I'm going to come back about 2 to 3 inches here, I think, to make a relatively nice fork. So the next thing we'll do is we'll split this. Be careful and try and get this as centered as you can. Uneven fork tines become real obvious real fast. So if you get them uneven, you'll need to file them to even them up some. That gives me a good line I can follow in the next heat. That's split. Now we just need to open it up and then clean it up. Just a real simple fork here. And we can even up the split here. This is the ideal place for a little hot filing. Hot rasping. For this small stuff, I tend to use the finer side of the Terrier's rasp. But you want to get that rag from the chisel off of there before you shape the tines, or it'll just work it in and have cold shuts, and some of that'll peel off and be sharp. Real nuisance. So that could use a little bit more hot filing. These cool off pretty quick when it's only 30 degrees in the shop. But if they get cold and you don't want to heat it back up, just go to a regular file. And if you want to, you can split these with a hacksaw or a bandsaw, and they will be much cleaner, and you won't have so much rag to clean up. And now you want to just kind of clean these up shape-wise and forge them out into even tines. I'm going to leave these square because it's a simple fork. I don't think it needs the time or the trouble to round them up, but you can certainly round them if you prefer. We've got this top a little uneven section here. They don't spread quite evenly, so I'm going to try and fix that. Yeah, it looks better. So now let's give a little bit of shape to this and make it actually a fork. Corner of the anvil is a great place to do that. That's pretty much all that needs. Just because I can, I'm going to put just a little bit of a twist right here at this end. Just to jazz it up a little bit. And I'm going to give just a little bit of a curve to the tines, just to make it a tiny bit more graceful. Not absolutely necessary by any means. Try and make them both match though, whatever you decide to do. All right, I'm going to let this cool, and then I'm going to work on this other end of the bar before I cut it in half. Now this end, which will be the second bar after it's been cut off, just gets a round ring of about, an inch and a half in diameter or something like that. Not absolutely critical. My ring was going to be more like an inch, so I took a little bigger bite of material there. This will be better. It's a good exercise to try and get the ring nice and round at the anvil without needing to go to a form or a mandrel or something like that. So I'm really pretty happy with this. I think I'll put a twist in the middle of this bar, and I'll explain later why I did not put this twist in the middle and I only wanted it at the end. But this one can have one in the middle, just for ornamentation. Actually, since this goes in the ground, I think that I'll put this twist kind of in the upper third of the finished piece. It doesn't need it, it's just whatever you want. This ring needs to be bent over, but not to a full 90 degrees. probably a little over 45. And this is something you may have to adjust after you get it done and you try it out and see what everything fits like. But this is a good angle to start with, I think. I'm going to go ahead and let this end cool, then take it over to the vise, and I'm just going to cut it with a hacksaw. You cut it with a chop saw angle grinder. You could heat up the middle and cut it at a Hardy if you wanted to, but I don't think I need to get all this hot. I think it'll be faster to just hacksaw it off real quick. Remember, this end is a steak, so the actual length you need this is somewhat dependent on what kind of ground you're going to put it in. If it's hard ground, it doesn't need to be as long. If it's soft, sandy soil, this may need to be a lot longer than what mine will end up being. So you need to adapt this project to your needs. So I've cut these off pretty much equal. They're about 15 inches from the end to the beginning of the fork, or 15 inches from the end to the beginning of the ring. Again, that varies. But the way this works in use, and it's not quite done yet, we've got two other things we're going to do to it, is that the fork goes in that bent over ring and sits out over the campfire while this is stuck in the ground next to the campfire. So it's really quite a simple way to cook. And because this is square, you can rotate this and it doesn't spin. If it was round bar, or if you had a twist through here, it might turn and not stay where you wanted it to. And because it's not locked in any one place, you can adjust how close it is to the fire just by sliding in and out. But this end needs a point, so it's easier to drive in the ground. And this end needs something done to it. If you're never going to do anything but just use the fork end, it's pretty simple to just put a little ring on here, but make sure that fits through this other ring. But what I prefer to do is put a little hook on here so you can hang a very small pot or kettle off of this end if you need to warm up enough water for a cup of tea or coffee or something like that. Let's do the simple end. It just gets a point, and not a very sharp point, or you'll bend it, stick it in the ground. Try and make sure the overall shank is straight. That's really all that needs. I want this to be a nice graceful little hook, so I'm going to draw out a fairly long taper here. And I also think this I'll round up. Doesn't need it. I think it'll just look better. I think I want to draw a little more taper through there first, though. And then, of course, take the square and turn it into an octagon. And round up the octagon. Next thing we want to do is bend a little curly Q on there just to make it look good. For simple projects, a lot of these little details get used a lot. Next we'll bend the hook. Start that over the edge of the anvil. Cooled the little curl so I can tap on it as needed. Then let's finish it up at the horn. That's really all you need for a hook. Just shape it the way you want. What do you say we add a twist here that complements this twist? And make sure you return this to the proper orientation if it matters. I guess in use it doesn't really matter because you're never using the hook and the fork at the same time, but it looks funny if they're off. It's a good opportunity to make sure everything is straight and in line. Well, here we have our squirrel cooker. In use, you put the fork through the ring on the top. This steak goes in the ground. Probably want to push it by hand. If you hammer on it, you're going to bend up your ring and it's going to change directions and won't be pointing where you want it to. Now, if this isn't the configuration you want with this coming out straight here, you could bend the ring back a little bit and the fork will point up in the air a little bit more. But there comes a point where it wants to slide backwards, so you need to be careful about that. You can also just put the steak in at a different angle to adjust the way the fork sits. And to adjust the heat, you just move the fork in and out to where you want it. If you're going to hang a little pot from here, and it'd be a little pot, probably less than a quart, a little 1 pint. They used to call them billy cups when I was doing the rendezvous. They were about a pint or less. They had a little lid, a little bail, cute little thing you could hang on something like this. Put it right up next to the fire, and again, you can get it in closer or further back based on where you slide this arm in and out. I just put some beeswax finish on this. The truth is, the steak driving in the ground is going to get stripped of any finish rather quickly, and everything that goes over the fire, it'll get cooked off and it'd be replaced with smoke and creosote or grease from what you're cooking. So the finish isn't all that important to start with. But that's a fun little project, and again, you don't have to cook a squirrel on it. You can cook anything you want on it. Heck, if you want to stick a hunk of tofu on this, that might work too. Thank you to Southern Junior for suggesting this project. Hope you enjoyed that project. Give it a thumbs up if you did. If you haven't done so already, I would love it if you hit that subscribe button. Stick around, watch a few of the other videos. Feel free to share the videos with your friends. Make time in your day to get out to your shop, make something, but stay safe, wear your safety glasses. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holiday, and we will see you for the next one.